In 1957, he'd already shown what a fantastic player he was going to be. Pelé wasn't discovered in 1958. He was simply discovered by the rest of the world in 1958.
At the time, many journalists were writing, Pelé's just a 17-year-old kid. And look at all the responsibility he's been given. What must he be thinking?
We soon saw why a kid of only 16 or 17 had been called up to the Brazilian national team.
It's a story that I have to thank God for because it's such a great story. Very emotional.
In the quarter-finals, Pelé scored a fine solo goal to give Brazil a 1-0 victory against Wales.
His semi-final display against France is one of the finest individual displays by a footballer you were ever likely to see, and the fact that it was by a 17-year-old is all the more astonishing.
After his hat-trick in the semi-final against France, Pelé and Brazil then took on Sweden in front of 50,000 fans in Stockholm.
The final was the great test. Brazil, determined to win its first World Championship, lined up against the hosts, Sweden. The pressure on the 17-year-old Pelé was extraordinary. He did not disappoint.
There were no signs of nerves as Pelé became the youngest player to appear in a World Cup final.
Sweden were at home and had already beaten some good teams on their way to the final. They got a real scare when they scored their first goal.
Brazilians everywhere feared the worst.
I was on the bench and I had a director from our team next to me. And when we conceded, he started crying. And we all just tried to console him and calm him. But he says it will be just like 1950.
The South Americans react immediately.
Atenção, entra na área, bateu o adversário, atirou, para fora pelo Rica, vai entrando na área, aproxima o gol, atirou, na frente, fora, na frente, pelo lado em fora. Entra Pelé, bola seguiu para Pelé, e para Garrincha pedindo a bola na ponta direita. Pelé já deu para Garrincha, começou a linha de passe do Brasil, corre Garrincha, papai, sobre ele, na meia-lua, passa no peito, dribla um, aproxima do gol, atirou, para fora! Driblou o adversário pelo alto.
Pelé is not tall, but he is tough to beat in the air.
I remember some reporters saying, how can they take a 17-year-old kid to the World Cup finals?
World Cup, playing a tournament like the World Cup where the best players in the world are congregated to find out who is the best, it was just magical.
At the time of the 1958 FIFA World Cup, Pelé was the youngest player at the tournament, and at the time, the youngest player ever to play in the World Cup.
In the cauldron of the biggest football show on earth, the FIFA World Cup, the great are separated from the good. The teenager emerged from nowhere to light up the tournament with his dazzling skills. At the tender age of just 17, he was the star of the tournament, scoring 6 goals, including 3 in the semi-final and 2 in the final. He handled the pressure of representing his country with the maturity of a veteran.
Pelé then did this to score the Brazilians' third and cement his place in the history of the game.
The 1958 World Cup was the first time the Europeans had ever seen a trick, which we call the hat in Brazil.
That goal which showed his awareness, his ability to make things stop in the penalty box.
Replaying the goal, as the cross comes in, Pelé shows great strength to outmuscle the much larger Siga Parling. As he brings the ball under control, he has limited space to beat the next man and create a chance on goal. As he then lifts the ball up over Gustafsson, the Swedish centre-half makes contact with the striker in what surely would have been a penalty had Pelé gone down under the challenge. Instead, the 17-year-old only has eyes for the ball. As he watches it drop 3.2 metres, Pelé quickly adjusts his body and, with his head over the ball, has perfect technique to volley past the Swedish goalkeeper Svensson.
June 29, 1958. The day Brazil won our first World Cup. When the final whistle blew, I fainted right there on the field. When I finally opened my eyes, everything felt like a dream.
Just wanted to speak to my mum and dad and tell them that the King had shaken my hand and that we'd won the World Cup.
Virando Ipirangas margem plácidas, povo cobrado retumante. O sol da liberdade em raios fúlgidos brilhou no céu da pátria nesse instante.
What he did in Sweden as a 17-year-old, he was a hero.
Become the first teenager to score in a World Cup final since a certain Pelé.
Now Mbappe with a shooting chance! He's done it again! The first teenager to score in a World Cup final since Pelé! There's Pogba and he missed it! Giroud's getting there. Mbappe is getting in himself.
Athletics track is so quick. The goalkeeper, by the way, comes out brilliantly just to
see. Pogba now has Griezmann on the run, and here's Mbappe. Super tackle. Mbappe. Little shift away from Strunic.
Pelé scored his second goal with a looping header. Brazil won their first FIFA World Cup title.
A 17-year-old had never won the World Cup, and it hasn't happened since. Such an immense talent.
scored a wonder goal. He produced a magical piece of skill before providing the finishing touch, without doubt a defining moment in FIFA World Cup history.
In the final, the first of his 2 goals was selected as one of the best goals in the history of the World Cup.